Welcome to days 28, 29, and 30 of B Movie Euphoria's 30 Days of Horror. Thank you for joining me. Been a few days. I went to see, oh, there's a hair in there. I went to see Mystery Science Theater live in Detroit, and that was a hell of an experience there. So, the only horror movie I saw that day was one of the movies they riffed, which was The Brain. So apparently there was a lot that was like cut out because there are kids there and they didn't want to be too racy. But The Brain is basically about this giant brain that is controlling this entire small town through the medium of this television show called Independent Thinking, which is hosted by the doctor from Reanimator, not Herbert West, but his, higher up that ends up getting his head lopped off and ends up almost giving fellatio to, anyway, so so The Brain, it was very entertaining. The most distracting thing about The Brain was the lead actor's eyebrows, which I just couldn't stop looking at, and it was just like they weren't. Maybe they were real, but they looked like a special effect. They looked like so straight and so thick. They looked like they were pasted on, or they were peeled off. They peeled off Burt Reynolds' mustache and cut it in half, and then pasted one each to each above his eye. So that was fun. That was really really great. The show was fantastic. Uh, I'm not gonna go too much into the show, but I loved it. I'm going next year if they have another one. It was just great. Anyway, we got three movies to get to, so Brain was fun, very Canadian. Those eyebrows, I have nightmares about those eyebrows. There's a giant brain, it floats around, it's controlling all these people's brains through its brain, but this brain has a face and teeth and everything, and they said something very interesting during the show. They were like, so this evil brain, is there a skull inside the brain? Because that's a really strange switcheroo there, where the brain is on the outside and the skull is on the inside. I don't think the filmmakers thought that far ahead, so I'm not gonna go there for them. Anyway, so the next day, the only horror film I saw was Scream 4, which I've seen before. I haven't seen for a while. I haven't seen any of the Scream films for a while. They're not my favorites because the first one was really fun and it poked fun at a lot of horror movie tropes, and it wasn't very original, obviously, because it was kind of a parody, and then the actual parody came out. Um, God, now I can't even. Scary Movie, which was what Scream was originally going to be called. Um, and so that was really, really strange because Scary Movie was like a parody of a parody, where Scream was kind of taking all the horror movie cliches and making kind of a straightforward horror film about it. Um, Scary Movie was taking all of these horror movie cliches and then mm, making a parody of it got really convoluted. But and then they kept making more of them because obviously Scream was super successful, and they had to keep coming up with ideas about like, what's going to happen next. How can we keep, because the killers are basically dead. They're definitely dead at the end of the first Scream. So how do we keep this going? And they managed to, with varying degrees of interest and success. By the fourth one, which came out, kind of not too long ago, and I think this was Wes Craven's last movie, which is kind of sad. I kind of wish he could have made one more really original film instead of just kind of retreading these ideas that he's done 100 times. Anyway, it was, for what it was entertaining. The death scenes were really well thought out and everything, but at this point, it was kind of tired, and the whole this time the killer's filming, like he's making his own film while he's killing the victims. Kind of an interesting idea, but because the characters are so familiar, at least everyone who's left alive, um, you just you don't really give a shit. Gale Weathers and Dewey, the sheriff, who is now the sheriff, and then Sidney Prescott. All these characters, like, at this point, they should have been killed. Like, in a regular horror movie, these characters would not have lasted to this point. They'd all be dead. So you're kind of like, you're waiting for these characters to die. I'm gonna ruin it. They don't. They get stabbed and stuff and put in danger, but they do not die, and it's kind of a letdown. And the killer, when it's finally revealed who it is, I'm just gonna say, if you haven't seen it by now, I'm sorry, it's gonna get ruined for you. It's Sidney Prescott's little niece or cousin. I don't remember. She's related, and her reasoning for becoming a killer and murdering all these people is ludicrous. It's absolutely stupid. Um, she's basically saying the reason she decided to start killing people is that, Sidney Prescott was kind of like famous for um, being this famous victim of, multiple people trying to kill her, and that affected her somehow, Sidney's niece, and she was like, how am I supposed to live in that shadow? And I'm like, that is not a good enough reason. I mean, you are murdering people, and you just want like internet fame, or it was just a real big stretch. And so it's entertaining. Obviously, if you're a completist of the Scream series, watch it. And it was good for like an afternoon watch. So I wasn't angry at it. I just didn't find it that interesting or innovative. Obviously, it can't be. It's the fourth sequel of a movie, but whatever. Scream films, not my favorite. Uh, but if you're really, really bored and you want to just watch them all, I would say just watch all of them if you have to, and don't just watch that one by itself. It didn't impress me. Anyway, we're down to today's film, which I was really blown away by. I've been wanting to see this for a while, and so Walmart got me. Walmart, I know it's kind of a horrible place, but they start putting out these Blu-rays that look like VHS tapes, and they fucking got me, because now I have like 4 or 5 of them, and it's pathetic. So this one in particular, Happy Birthday to Me, I've always wanted to see because of this cover. It's a fantastic cover. There have been a few variations on it. A couple years ago, I think it was, I don't know, some company put out a DVD of this, and it didn't have this cover. And also, they put it out with a weird disco soundtrack on the beginning of the film, and took out the very creepy, atmospheric Happy Birthday to Me song, which was very... They put it back in for this one, and it's very creepy, very, like, it gets you right off the bat. So this one is all about this group of kind of this group of 10 kids, and they're all very rich, and they're called the Top 10, and they all hang out in this bar together and get drunk together, and they're all friends, and they're couples, and there's drama going on there, but that's kind of the fun of it, because that gets you into these kids' lives, and they're not just two-dimensional characters. You actually start understanding them, even though they're all rich kind of pricks, and you don't really give a fuck. But they're nice, and you like them a little bit. And the whole film is kind of focusing on this new girl, uh, Virginia Wainwright, who, well, she's not really new. She's new to the group, and they all have kind of accepted her. And she has been through some horrific things in her life, which we start seeing through flashbacks. That she was in a car accident with her mother. She ended up having to get brain surgery because when the car went into the river, when she was swimming up, her head hit a boat that was going by, and so she had to get surgery for that. And so the movie is kind of like veering you towards her being the killer. And for the longest time, all the reviews I read and everything that I was reading about this film, I thought that she was the killer too. And but there is really, really fine twist at the end. Some people hate it, from what I've read, but it really like twist upon twist upon twist upon the very end. But it all kind of makes sense. I had to go back and watch it again because I'm like, how? Wait, how is that possible? Who is this person? And like, either way, they got me real good. The death scenes are really great. Um, the dialogue's actually pretty good for a film like this, and the acting is very good. The lead girl is actually from Little House on the Prairie, which I was a very huge fan of, and I guess she had to take a break from Little House on the Prairie to film this movie. And I had a secret little crush on this girl when I watched her in that show. Anyway, this was really fun. I 100% recommend it. It it was freaky. It had a fantastic twist. If you're gonna do a whodunit slasher, you have to make it so that the audience is always like, "Fuck, who could this be?" But kind of giving them little hints and little like, "It might be this, it might be this, I don't know," and then boom, that's who it is, and it blew me away. I was very impressed. Anyway, if you want one of these VHS Blu-ray things, they're at Walmart. They're pretty cheap. That's why I've bought too goddamn many of them. We're almost to the last day of October, October 31st. Thank you for watching up to this point. B-Movie Euphoria's 31 Days of Horror. I will see you tomorrow. I promise. Have a good one, everybody.